Okay, so this is our VBA series of video number 6, and in this video we are going to talk about a few items, mainly focusing on Messagebox and Inputbox. And throughout these two examples, we will also look at how we can do a loop while. Okay, it's a looping, and also the number 4 is on how you can force quit a running VBA code. Okay, so Messagebox is basically a way to display a message to user, and Inputbox is basically to capture user input. For example, you want to ask for their name, phone number, and etc. Okay, and a do loop here that we are going to discuss is that in the previous video we have discussed about for loop. We discussed about do while loop as well. So now over here we basically going to illustrate similar items, but then we put the while loop, the while statement at the end instead of at the beginning. So if you are not familiar with for loop and do while loop, you can check out the previous videos. And this video we will be using do, and then what are the action, and then we loop while given a statement, okay, a condition. Then to force quit a running VBA, sometimes your VBA codes like running infinitely or taking too long time. You can press escape key to repeatedly to force quit it, or you use control break in your keyboard. Okay, so we will be using escape key later to illustrate this action. Okay, so now let's go to Excel file here. Right, so this is Excel, and we will hardly use this interface today, and we focus more on the what is that called, the coding here. Right, so let me resize this one a bit, and we first start with the message box. Okay, so let me hide this input box first. Call this as mbox message box number 1. So the first example, easiest way of displaying this message box is you call message box, and then directly a white space, and then you see what description here you have. You can see that there is a bracket here, and then you have to close the bracket. Right, so we will discuss about this syntax later, but now let's just try this one. This is a message box. Right, so by doing that, if you run the code using F5 or click here, you should be able to see a message box popping out, and this is like saying this is a message box. You are given the button OK, you are given the title Microsoft Excel. Okay, so we take it to slightly more advanced features. Let's say if you want to change whatever things that you can see here. For example, okay, let me change it to message box 2. The title and also the button. So how can you do that? Okay, so before we go into that, then we can actually write a more standard subroutine. So for example, call this as prompt. Right, so out o prompt prompt as string, and then you can actually have something like this, o prompt. Of course, you got to define what is this o prompt here, which is equal to this is a message box. Okay, so this second and the first one will give you exactly the same output. Okay, and the next thing that we can do is actually, if let's say you remove this one, right, then you put a bracket, you see this description popping out. Prompt here is basically the message that you have here, so you can put it like o prompt prompt. Okay, so if you do it in this way and you run the code, still you're getting the same thing. Okay, but you will see that the bracket actually is like a little bit further. Okay, so let's try one more time, but we have other items. So if you look at this thing carefully, you see after a first comma, you can follow, then this will be bold, and suggested arguments will be displayed here. Okay, so what you have here is that when you have a square bracket over the argument, it means that this is an optional argument. But when you say optional, means you can ignore it. When you ignore it like this one or previously, we close the bracket. So it basically means that you are taking the default value. So if in this case we don't want to take the default value, for example VB, and then you can say yes no only, yes no cancel, for example. So what it means here, over here you are saying that okay, the button I don't want to display just okay, I want to display 3 buttons now, yes no and cancel. But when you have multiple arguments for message box, you cannot put it in this way. For example, you will get an error. So to avoid or to solve this error, so what can you do is that you can actually, if you observe carefully, the way you write this thing is like calling a subroutine, right? So calling a function. So you can actually say call message box. You can do it in this way, and let's run this code. You will see that you get yes no cancel here. Title is still the same. This is a message box. Okay, this is the prompt. So this is the VB yes no cancel. So that is what you have so far, and we proceed with other types of variant. For example, I can also define all title as string as well. Then I can say that okay, now title is this is VBA 6. Okay, bear in mind, if you are not familiar with the argument, then you just put a comma. After comma, you will see this thing. Then you say VB okay. So you can have okay only, which is the default one, or VB okay cancel, or VB question, and so on. So you can play around with this thing. So let's just stick to the yes no cancel. Okay, you can double click or use tab to auto complete it, and then you put a comma. You see now you are at title here, so we put in the old title. Okay, so if you comma again, you will see help file and context. So we will go into this later. Let's just close the bracket, and now you run the code. You will see that the title is being changed. Okay, now back to this one. We go to the help file just now, right? So when you before you go there, you can actually say I want to add a help button. Okay, so help button is VB message box help button, this one, right? You use a plus, that means I want these two outline or two interface. Okay, so you use a plus, and let's say if you run this code, now you get a help button. Okay, so having this help button, if you click it, you can see that it won't do anything because we have not defined what is the help file. So we got to define what is the help file. Over here, if you want to define a help file, you got to use CHM file. That means like for example, you can do like desktop and then help.chm. Okay, oops, accidentally entered. Okay, so we need a file like this, but of course I don't have the help file here, but you can actually create this kind of help file using external program. So CHM I think is called as compile HTML. Okay, so having this one, then comma, what is the context here? Context is basically like which topic, you can put it one, the first topic and so on. That means under this help file and first topic. Okay, so if you run this code now, you click help, wait for it to load a bit. You will see that now the help button is actually doing something. Okay, so it will actually open up this Firefox and then open up this help file, but technically or precisely it should open up this file. Okay, so if you have the file on your desktop or on your PC, it should open the file in your desktop or in your PC. But because I don't have this file, so by default when you define something, they should open up the help file. But help file does not exist, then it will go to the Microsoft website. So we will omit this loading, so it takes a while to load. So let me just close this one. Okay, so cancel this thing. Okay, so we have explained what is this, what are the last two options, so we will omit this from now on. Okay, so that is what you have here, and of course you can also define it in a slightly different way. For example, if let's say the message box tree just now, this one is like you call out this message box and then you show the message only. But sometimes you want to know what the user is actually clicking. For example, they click yes or they click no. Okay, this is yes, no, cancel, right? So you can remove the help button. Okay, so we want to know what they click. Yes, no, cancel. If yes, then we tell them what. If no, then we tell them another things, for example. Okay, so in that case, you cannot use call, but you got to pass it to a variable. That means you define like result as VB. So you can actually search for the button. Okay, message box result. You see, this is what you want, and you can say result equal to message box, this one. So you can do it in this way, you can do it in call. So it depends on whether you need to capture the output or not. So in this case, whatever user click, either yes or no, they will pass to here. Okay, and then if you want to know what is this thing, then we say, okay, for example, sheet1.cls, or you can use range. If you remember this thing, A1, right? So sheet1, A1, the cell A1, we want it to be the output result. So you will see, for example, let's run this one. A1 is still empty. I click yes. Then go back to this one. You see, yes is basically giving you a 6. Okay, and then I run this one again. I click a no. No is 7. I click a cancel. Cancel is 2. Okay, so you know that yes is 6, no is 7, cancel is 2. So in order to know what are these result, basically you have 1 to 7. You can check the Microsoft website. Let me close this one. You can actually check the Microsoft website like Messagebox. VBA Microsoft. Okay. Same to other function as well. You can actually check all the function in their website. Okay, and they are telling you, okay, what are these options? Like just now you see we are using VB yes, no, cancel, right? So you can also do it in this way. Value tree here represent what? Representing that instead of using yes, no, cancel, you can put a tree here. Okay, so you will see yes, no, cancel, still the same thing. When you cancel it, it is still a 2. Okay, so but of course using value is harder to memorize lah, to remember what are they. So usually I will use this kind of VB yes, no, cancel. But over here, more importantly is this one. Okay, so VB OK is a value 1, VB cancel is a value 2, and so on until 7. So this is the list. That's why we click yes, no, cancel, you get 6, 7, 2 just now. Okay, so that is on your message box. Okay, and let's move to the input box. Okay, so rescale this window a bit. Input box is actually similar, except that instead of showing information, now you are basically trying to capture what user is inputting. For example, you can ask them what is your name, and then you capture the name, pass into the Excel. Okay, so let's try this one. Call it as iBox 1. Okay, so the easiest input box is like this. You define I result as variant. Okay, so reason why we define it as variant is that define as variant for user to key in anything. Okay, so now you can say I result is equal to input box. So you see things are actually similar. So help file and context here, they are actually the same thing. We won't repeat here. Prompt title, and then default all these are the arguments. X post, Y post is like X position, Y position. Okay, so we will just focus on the prompt and title here. Prompt, you can say what is your name, enter your name, for example. Okay, and then title is this is a input box. Okay, so having this one, if you run it, now you see this is an input box. Enter your name, you can key in like A, then click OK. So nothing happened. Then you can actually pass this result to like Excel if you want. Okay, if needed, then you can do something like this result. Then if you run the code, you see A2 is still empty. When I key in ABC is my name, I click OK, I get ABC here. Okay, so reason for variant is that you can key in as a text, you can key in as a value, you can key in like different things. For example, if you define it as a string, then what happened here is that if I key in A and then press enter, no issue, A will be here, you see. But the same thing if I run the code now, I key in 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say my name is numeric. Then when I click OK, also no issue, right? So you can pass it into here. But if let's say you change now, okay, we use a new example. Okay, so let me change this one back to variant first. So when you are like defining a variable that can be anything, let them to be variant. Okay, so now if I name it as numeric, sorry, integer, you don't have your numeric in VBA. Okay, so if I define I result as integer, then what is your, enter your age now. Okay, this is A3. If I run the code, sorry, run the code, oops, let me change to iBox 2. Okay, enter your age, you can say, okay, my age is 21, then you click OK. You get a 21 here. Okay, no issue. But now you run this thing again. You use your age as ABC. You will get an error and the code will actually just stop there. Okay, so if let's say after this one you still have tons of calculation, after they key in their, like for example, number of simulation, number of years, and then you want to calculate the payments and so on. So once you get this error, the rest will not be processed. So basically your program will stuck there. So we want to avoid these kind of things. This is type mismatch. That means you define it as integer, but user key in as a string. So you see, when you use a string, you can key in a number, but when you use an integer, you cannot key in as a string. Okay, so that is not reversible. So in order to avoid this thing, we got to use a looping. Okay, so we keep asking the user to repeatedly key in the same thing until they correctly key in a number. Okay, so that is what we want to do. So do what you want to do. You want to do this thing, right? Then let me close this one. Loop what? Loop while chk equal to true. Okay, so then what is chk? chk is a check, so we can do a checking like this. Check equal to is numeric I result. So what it will check is that after I get this input from the user, I will check whether this thing is a number or not. If yes, then this thing becomes true. Okay, if true, then I won't continue this looping. That means if it is not a number, I will keep repeating. So let's try this code. So age, if I put in 21, 22 now. Okay, so we observe the cell A3. Okay. Let me check. Do loop while this is true. So okay, sorry. Terbalik. And okay, so we should be using a false, not true. That means when it is not number, then you keep repeating. Accidentally use a wrong one. So if 22, click OK. You see the looping will stop and then it will proceed to this line and you get 22. Okay, if let's say now if we run this code, you type in ABC, you click OK. Let's debug. Okay, so you are passing a text into a integer, so not working in this way. That means this one you should be using a variant. So now ABC, you see it will keep repeating, ask you to key in your age now. It won't proceed to this line until you put in like 23. You click OK, then you will get 23 here. Okay, so this is the idea of the looping. But problem with this kind of looping is that you never mention what is the requirement. So now you want to say if they do something wrong, you want to use a message box to tell the user that, hey, key in numbers only. Okay, so if chk equal to false, then so you can do it in this way. And if so, what is this one? You want to use a message box to tell them. We will skip all the buttons and so on. Okay, so we will tell them that enter new numbers only. Okay, so when you run this code, then you see you type in ABC, you click OK. You get a message box that's saying a key in number only. Then you click OK. It will go back to this one. Then you will key in like now it's like 30. Then click OK. You get a 30, right? So this is how you can actually check it. Of course, if you don't want to do it in this way, the if function you can also write in a slightly different way. Actually, they are the same, but it depends on your preference. Okay. Okay, for this one, you can actually change it to if not chk. You can do it in this way also. What it means here is that if chk is true, not become false, right? So if false, then you won't do anything. That means when chk is true, you won't do anything. Chk is true means it is a number. If chk, if you are getting not number, then chk should be a false. So if not false means negation of false, you will get a true. So if true, then you do this thing. Okay, so this will actually give you the same result as well. You see, and then you key in 21, click OK, then you change back to 21. Okay, so this is how you can use your input box and message box. Of course, one more thing that you can do is actually when you are using message box. So remember just now when you are using message box, you say, okay, I can capture the user's reaction. Either they click yes or no. So sometimes you might want to use yes or no to further proceed. So now we take one example. Right. So Msgbox example. So same thing, this is a message box, this is VBA 6, and then let's say change this one to you. want to continue. Okay, so don't forget one thing is that 6 is VB yes, 7 is VB no, right? So 2 is VB cancel, we won't use that here. Instead of passing the value to A1, now we do a if function, or you can do something like, for example, if result equal to 6, then message box yes, else. So if you are not familiar with if loop, then you can check out the previous video. No. Okay, and if, okay, so if you run this code, then do you want to continue, then you get a message box yes. If you run this code, you click cancel, it will go to no, because if it is not 6, then it will no, right? So if you want to further split this cancel and no, then you will have else if result equal to 7, then okay, then now if you run this one, you click yes, you get yes. If you run this one, you click no, you get a no. If you run this one, you click cancel, you get nothing, because you don't have the text for the cancel here. Okay, so if you run this one, you click this one, also same thing. Okay, now you can have one more variant. That means this is just for fun. So for example, if we don't want to use if anymore, so what we want to do is that we want to do a do loop. Okay, loop while result equal to 6. Okay, so that means when you click yes, it will keep continue. So I click yes, so this message box won't disappear, it will keep reappearing until you click no. Okay, so you can do something like this. Of course, you need to be slightly careful. You don't change this one to like VB, like for example, VB yes no. Okay, cancel. Okay, so if you do it in this way, then you see that okay is not value 6 and cancel is value 2, right? So if you check this one, okay is 1, cancel is 2. So that means no matter what button you click, you will never get a 6. So this thing will not be repeated. So like for example, if you run, okay, so you see, if you run, you click cancel. Okay, now loop while result is not equal to 6. You can do something like this, greater than or less than, then this represent not equal. That means whatever you click, as long as you click yes, then it will stop, otherwise it will keep repeating. Then if you run this code, it will go into infinite loop, because you will never get result not equal to 6. You will always get result not equal to 6. Okay, so like for example, you click yes, you see this thing always appear. You click cancel, it will always appear. So now at this point, you cannot close this message box. So that is also why we say this is infinite loop. It will keep looping because it will always repeat until you are able to put in a 6, but you don't have the button here, so you can't put in a 6 here. So what you can do is only to do a for script. So you can press escape repeatedly. Okay, so like if you press escape one time, it will just cancel. Okay, then in order to force quit, you press escape and don't leave it. Okay, so you just press the escape button for like 5 seconds, then you will go into here, then you just end it. Okay, so this is one way of force quitting the program. That means if you accidentally write a code that is running infinitely, or if your simulation or your code is taking a very long time, you can use escape button, press and don't don't leave your finger, press and leave for press for about 5 seconds, then you will be able to cancel it. Okay, so you got to change this thing back to VB yes no cancel. Then running this one again, you will know that if you click no, they will keep repeating until you click yes, because they will loop as long as whatever you click is not equal to 6. So don't forget 2 is VB cancel, right? So that means as long as you click 7 or 2, you will always be able to cancel it. But if you click if you will always be repeating until you click a yes. Okay, so this is something like this. Then you click a yes to stop it. Do you want to stop? It should be a stop. Okay, so this is what you have in this video. So we basically cover a few simple items here: Messagebox and Inputbox. These two will be very useful if, let's say, you are creating a template for a general use. That means not only for you, but for your colleagues and also your friend. So sometimes you ask them to key in input box is easier. Okay, so you can design something like this, and then you can create a do while loop, and then to ask them to repeat until it is correct. Okay, and false quit is basically for your own use. That means when someone accidentally run into a code that it won't stop, then you can press escape button for about 5 seconds to cancel it. Okay, so this is the end of the video, and I will see you in the next video. So thanks for watching. Okay, bye bye.